Welcome back to the Saturday Scholars College Football Podcast. That is Gonzo, I'm Shu, and today we are here to do Week 6 recap. Let's go. What a hell of a week, man. Another crazy Saturday in the great sport of college football. I was on vacation a little bit. I still was able to catch as many games as I possibly could, man, because I was tuning into the action and I saw a lot of crazy stuff happened, and we got a lot to say. I'll say that. We got a lot to say. Zan, unfortunately, is busy, so he will not be joining us this week. However, he did send in his picks later on for the second segment. Go ahead and check that out if you're on YouTube or podcast for predictions in Week 7. But it's time to talk about Week 6, man. So if you're tuning in here, check out the timestamps, whatever games you want to see us talk about. Go ahead and look through the bottom bar there and figure out where you want to go and tune in. If you want to listen to us all through this whole segment, we appreciate it, man. If you're driving home from work or whatnot, doing whatever you are, we enjoy it. So Gonzo, where do we want to start? I think I'll tee us off here. I think we know where to start. We got to head to Red River. We got to head to the Texas State Fair. Oklahoma, the Sooners took out the Texas Longhorns. Boomer Sooner, baby, 34-30. They avenged that dreadful 48-0 loss last week. They are 6-0 undefeated. They are now ranked in the top 5. And this is by far the biggest win in the Brent Venables era at OU. And I'd say it's probably the biggest win that OU's had in a long time. And when I mean long time, I'm thinking at least in the last, 5 years or so?
Like maybe that Ohio State win when Baker was there. That's about the last one I could probably recall.
And that was like 2015, I believe, somewhere around there. So it has been some time. It's been a while since I think OU's gotten a win like this. And as far as just narratives and storylines, it's huge. I mean, listen, a lot of people doubted Brent Venables, me included. A lot of people doubted how good this OU team could be. A lot of people doubted their ceiling. I personally did not expect them to be 6-0. I did not expect them to win this game. But listen, I know there were 3 turnovers on the part of Texas, but it looked like those were 2 pretty evenly matched teams, if you're going to ask me.
I mean, we talk about 3 turnovers, too, but Quinn Ewers still went 31-37 for almost 350 and a touchdown. So outside of those 2 picks, he was efficient. But for the victors, I want to make 2 points. One, for myself, this was huge because someone who took over 9.5, this is a great win to have in the back pocket to hit double digits. That aside, though, Dillon Gabriel, do you think he might have took last year personal? The fact that he physically could not play because of concussion protocol, and he goes out, he throws only 1 touchdown pass, but it ends up being one of the most probably iconic touchdown passes now in the rivalry for years to come. And on the ground, he runs for 113 and a touchdown. So it was really cool to see him be able to play and for OU to kind of say, hey, look what happens when we actually have a quarterback playing. We can go toe to toe with all the 5 stars littered on Texas's roster because we got some of our own. This game, even it was concurrent with LSU, so I wasn't able to watch a lot of it in real time. But from what I caught at the end and caught through the live breaks, I mean, this was just, it's what they said. It was a shootout, and it was phenomenal. And games like this are why I love the sport.
Amen to that. Yeah, the Red River shootout, it always lives up to his name. Red River just always delivers. It always delivers. It's always a great game every single year, last year notwithstanding. But more often than not, it doesn't matter what the records are. This is a throw your records out, throw the spread out type of game. Both teams always play phenomenal, and I just love it. I eat it up every year. This is the last year that these 2 teams are going to have Big 12 patches on their jerseys as well. So that'll be interesting. Starting next year, this will be an SEC game. But I reiterate everything you said about Dillon Gabriel, man. I want to go back to the 4th quarter of this game where Dillon Gabriel led that game-winning touchdown drive, and that was, I think, kind of the first time that we really saw Dillon Gabriel, like you said, kind of have a chance to have a moment, because he really hasn't been able to have like a moment in a big-time game in an OU jersey so far, because last year they just didn't have those opportunities, and he didn't play in this game, as you said. On that last drive, man, Dillon Gabriel, poised, calm, collected, made the perfect throws, the right reads, and he got it done. And like you said, on the ground, phenomenal. He won them this game.
And I want to tell you a cool tidbit. So I'm, looking through the box score. The kid who caught it, Nick Anderson, his only catch of the day, true freshman from Katy, Texas. So, man, that is really cool to beat the University of Texas as a hometown boy, making your only catch in Red River, in the waning seconds of the game. And what's crazy, Bob Stoops' kid is the one who set up that game-winning touchdown pass when Drake caught one and scampered for about 20-something yards. So, like you said, man, the narratives are just so cool around this. And let's approach the Texas perspective. You still can do everything you want. This wasn't like a Big 12 North, Big 12 South. You still can keep running the table. There's a good chance you run back into them in the Big 12 championship, which doesn't usually bode well for the winner, by the way, too. If anything, this kind of helps Texas in a way, because, again, you just never want to see a team you beat again later down the road. And Ewers played great. The fact of the matter is this. You committed 3 turnovers. You committed none. And there you go. There's your padlock stat right there.
Yeah, that's right. I was about to mention that. And the first quarter especially was just bizarro world. It was a circus, but in a good way. Like there's bad circuses, and then there's great circuses. This was a great circus. The first quarter was just like nuts. I was heating it up so much. We had, I think, 2 deflected interceptions that OU got. The first play of the game, the first drive of the game, Quinn Ewers looked like he was a deer in headlights. I don't know what the heck was going on there. He threw that interception, but, as we said, he settled in fairly well. And then the punt block touchdown that Texas got, that was in the first quarter, I believe. I mean, it was nuts. I think at the end of the day, 3-0 turnover margin, that's obviously going to help OU. I think that's ultimately the difference in the game. However, post-game win expectancy, listen, the robots never lie. They crunch the numbers, they look at the box scores, and they say, who should have won this game based on the box scores alone? And the post-game win expectancy said OU would win this game 52% of the time. So essentially, the post-game box score is suggesting
5-0?
This is 52. It's basically a coin flip. And from what I watched,
barely, okay.
That's what my eyes told me too. I think this was a coin flip. If these two replayed a game, if these two replayed again, this is a coin flip game that can go either way. I watched this game and I've left this game thinking Texas and Oklahoma are pretty evenly matched. And as you said, a Big 12 championship game rematch is looking very likely. And we'll get into this later, but after watching the rest of the Big 12 this week and last week, I think that very likely is the right term to use for the odds of a rematch of these two happening in the championship game later on in Dallas.
Think about this, Shoup. You could potentially have 12-1 OU after a Big 12 title loss, and then 12-1 Big 12 champion Texas. And what do you do as the committee? And I don't like to infuse too much playoff talk because we're enjoying the meat of college football right now with the regular season. But that's a very interesting hypothetical right there, especially Oklahoma's look good at points, but the quality of competition. Oh, man. I'm interested to see how this all shapes out as we continue the season from this halfway point.
Well, you led into my next question. One, if you're Oklahoma, now that you look at the rest of the schedule, do you see another loss there, at least for the regular season? Is this a team that should go undefeated or will go undefeated? Those are 2 different questions.
I'm going to go with should because of just how wacky this sport is. I mean, UCF, the fact that Kansas whipped them, and we'll get into that later. I'm not going to put the, cart before the horse. But UCF is a team that if you are not paying attention, I mean, they can snipe you, especially if JRP gets back to full health. And then, I mean, Kansas and Warrant don't sleepwalk. Talent for talent, they're way better than Kansas. But again, come correct. Oak State, I'm sorry, but I don't need to say anymore. I mean, that's just at that point, it's unfortunately
we all know how that game goes every year.
Yep. And then, oh my God, I mean, West Virginia, no, that's been a nice story, but I don't think, especially coming to Norman, even though they played some bangers in the past, though, when Will Greer was there. And then BYU in Provo. I mean, that does sound like prime. Number 3 OU comes in and BYU shocks them. And then TCU has not dumpster fire, but they have been very disappointing this year. So I'm going to go should be undefeated with my trap game probably being BYU out of this whole bunch.
I pretty much agree with that. I think the only two losable games are at Kansas and at BYU. Most likely at Kansas, I would say. I think Kansas has the coaching staff and the offense to potentially clip them and put some points on OU's defense, but Kansas defense is not very good at all. So it really, OU will be favored in every game. It's just a matter of can all the ingredients be there to where OU is going to have a down game, because they are going to have a down game and they are going to flirt with losing to one of these opponents. I mean, it's college football. They are going to have a down game somewhere in the schedule. It's just who's it going to be to, and is that team good enough to actually beat them if OU is playing their C game?
But I will say though that when you then look at coaching, though, Brett Venables, everybody wanted to throw him out of there at 6-6. Oh, he can't hack it. What are we doing? I think a guy like that in this position, coming from a championship culture that he experienced with Dabo for all those years, I think he is going to have these guys right and have them in the mindset to be prepared.
I agree.
So I think that helps, unlike some of these older Bob Stoops teams that you would see run the table forever. And then when it came time, when the lights got the brightest, they would fold.
Absolutely. And the Venables defense is coming to form, as we can all see. The Venables defense is looking pretty good, and they gave Texas a little bit of problems, though Texas is still a great offense. I mean, let's be real here. Texas still did put up, 500 something yards of offense. So, I reiterate the point that these two teams, if they were to replay again, I still think Texas could easily win. It's a coin flip, but I think that OU can obviously manage the rest of the schedule. If I had to say, I'd say they go 11-1. For some reason, I just feel like they're going to get clipped. I mean, are they elite? Are they a good team, but are they elite? I still think that they are going to get caught sleepwalking and lose one of these games, but 11-1 still gets you in the Big 12 championship game. You have the head-to-head over Texas. They're still fine.
They would be elite, Shub, if Caleb was still there. If you had Caleb with his defense, I'm talking number one. I'm talking maybe surpassing Georgia, at least in the rankings, because you'd have a Venables-led defense, and you always know that Caleb will be there to make it happen on offense.
And you had to go there. OU fans are having the time of their lives. This is the greatest week they've had in so long. They're Big 12 championship favorites now. They're playoff contenders. They're legitimately, national title contenders this year. But I agree with you. If you plug Caleb Williams on this team this season, with the way that the rest of the field is looking, OU's probably the favorite to win the national championship with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, no, I really believe that. And also, OU fans should take some kind of solace. Winking and lose last night, but here you are beating your arch rival on a walk-off touchdown, essentially. And Lincoln Riley needs triple overtime to beat Arizona, who is really in year one of the rebuild. So I still think the vibes are way better in Norman than in SoCal right now.
I agree, and that flipped on its head pretty quickly, man. Pretty quickly, because the OU versus Lincoln Riley rivalry is it's got a little twist this year that I don't think many people would have seen coming.
I don't think the rankings would work this out the way Georgia and Michigan are running the table, but all I'm saying, man, if we got OU versus SC in the playoff, narratives, my friend.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. Even if they met in a New Year's Six bowl or something like that, it would be phenomenal. But really quick before we pivot off this game, because we spent a good amount of time talking about it, but it deserves this amount of time.
Oh yeah,
Texas. If you're Texas, in my opinion, this sucks. You had an opportunity to kind of put your foot on the OU's throat and have a nice little 2-game winning streak in this series, which, if Texas had been able to win this game, the narratives would have been, hey, we've kind of maybe Maybe we've kind of, taken a little step forward ahead of OU. We've been the better program the last 2 years. We're looking better overall, but that wasn't the case. And however, I will say, if you're Texas, like, if you replay this game, I've said this like 4 times already, I still think Texas could easily win if they replay this game, and you're fine. You have that win over Alabama on your non-con resume. If Texas goes in and beats OU in Dallas in the Big 12 championship game and they only have that one loss, you're looking at a Texas team that would have a 1-1 split over Oklahoma. So, if you're, like you mentioned, Gonzo, potentially if Texas or OU, if one of those two teams can only get into the 14 playoff, well, if you're Texas, you have that 1-1 split. What's the difference? Texas has that win over
You won the whole
Alabama and
conference.
Tuscaloosa on their resume. They would have the Big 12 championship, title officially. And OU doesn't have that big non-conference win. OU's non-con play was not that great. So everything is still in front of you if you're Texas. Like, assuming they rematch in the Big 12 championship game, Texas still controls its own destiny.
Well, and Shub, listen to this blessing. You get a bye week to lick your wounds and really think hard about this. Then God bless Houston. You go into Houston, they're going to steamroll Houston. You get BYU coming to you. Kansas State's coming to you, and Kansas State looked absolutely mortal against the Pokes. And then your road games are at TCU, who I said that we haven't been impressed with, at Iowa State, who I'm not impressed with TCU because you lost to Iowa State. And then Texas Tech at home, and Texas Tech is not the dark horse that I thought they were going to be. So you have a very favorable back end of the schedule to still accomplish everything you just said.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really don't think this loss hurts Texas that much. And Texas fans may feel that way right now. National media and casual fans may feel that way. But if you really look at the big picture, especially if the scenario we just talked about plays out, like, this really doesn't negatively affect Texas that much, which is kind of crazy to say. But, that's kind of the way it could go this year. But we shall see.
So I'm going to take us in a weird direction based off of losses and affecting your season. You just said, Texas losing this game, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, still a lot to play for. Well, I'm going to tell you a team who is most likely cooked unless some really wacky stuff happens in the next 2 months, and that's Notre Dame. I mean, it has just been a rough 3-week stretch. You get your heart ripped out against Ohio State. We talked plenty about that. You escape by the skin of your teeth against an upstart Duke team. And then I really thought they were going to take care of Louisville, no problem. I didn't care that they were going on the road to play. I'm like, well, you got Sam Hartman. You got a great defense. Louisville's kind of played a Charmin-type schedule. You'll win. And, man, I give a salute to Louisville and Jeff Braun because they brought it. They made Sam Hartman look terrible. And, unfortunately, there goes his Heisman hopes. I mean, Notre Dame, at this point, you're playing for the Fiesta Bowl.
Yep. Yeah, all three of us misread this game pretty badly, didn't we? Hindsight's 2020, but, I think what you said about this stretch for Notre Dame, Ohio State, Duke, and then you go at Louisville, that's a tough stretch. And I think maybe this loss in part has to do with fatigue, because normally when you have these situations, you're like, I'd rather have the more battle-tested team. But I think in Notre Dame's case, this is like 3 weeks in a row. This isn't battle-tested over the course of a whole season. This is a 3 weeks in a row, like, gauntlet that they're going through. And yeah, it was probably a lot on them mentally and physically. But, I was able to watch highlights from this game. I was able to catch up on it. Louisville was the better team. Louisville was the better team. And we mentioned, Zan like to say a snake oil last week. Well, this was no snake oil. This was fine. This was fine Olive Garden oil straight from the fields.
This is fine wine is what this is. This is fine wine.
That was fine wine. Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
It was dude, Jamari Thrash, man, coming in from, I want to say Georgia State, one of the small Georgia schools, 8 catches, 75 yards and a touchdown. I love to see that stuff, man. I mean, and Jack Plummer, game manager didn't turn the ball over, and there you go. I mean, sometimes all you need is just a solid defensive performance and don't turn the ball over and really good home field advantage. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked they won. I'm like double shocked they won by double digits.
Yeah, I was shocked just all in all, but after watching the highlights, I was like, wow, I think Louisville might be legit. However, I will say this. If you're Louisville, after this win, they definitely got up to play this game, that's for sure. They were at home. It was a night game. And by the way, Louisville, when Louisville is good, like Louisville is always hype. I feel like whenever Louisville is good, they always have
Yes.
great skill position players. Like
Yes.
when Louisville is good, they always have like amazing skill position players. Without a doubt, you have Jamari Thrash and then you have Jawar Jordan at running back, like two of the
Yeah.
better running back and receivers in respectively in college football. They have both of them. So Louisville always has tremendous skill position players whenever they're good, without fail. And that atmosphere, man, that atmosphere at home in a night game, like it's hype, man. Like when Louisville's good, it is hype. I will say that, but I look at the rest of the schedule. Is at Pitt next week just trap AF?
Of course.
It
Even
is
before the
trap
bye
AF.
week.
Yeah.
I mean, Pitt and Georgia Tech, and we'll get into that later. Don't worry. I mean, those are teams that make just a living off sniping mid-tier ACC teams. And I'm going to call Louisville mid-tier because you're in the midst of a rebuild. And yes, you beat Notre Dame. That's great. You beat Notre Dame because they've been dominating the conference for, 30 games. But it is a prime spot to go in there and Pitt just drags you into the mud and wins the game. Like, I'm gonna be weird, like 15-10. Like, just gets you off task, 3 turnovers. So yeah, I think it's a trap game. And then, get a bye week, and then you host Duke, and Duke's kind of going to be a bit of a different animal, like we alluded to in win totals without Riley Leonard at full strength.
The
Then you
dominoes are
beat the
falling
Virginia
in their
schools.
favor.
Yes. And then honestly, maybe you can beat Miami. Again, we'll get into it later. And then Kentucky, for me, it's let's see if that offensive line is even still intact, if they're healthy. But Kentucky, and that's at home too. Oh my gosh, this is very favorable. I'm not saying undefeated or anything nuts, but if everything goes right, like 10 wins seems to be pretty likely. I'm probably cooked on that under 8, but they're in a really good spot right now. This is amazing in year 1.
Oh, it is absolutely amazing. I mean, listen, if you're Jeff Brom, Jeff Brom is a phenomenal coach. And listen, they had to take advantage of this schedule because it has played out in their favor so far. They have their bigger games at home. They got Notre Dame at home. They have Duke at home without Riley Leonard, which is huge. And then they have Kentucky at home to end the year. Not at Miami is the only tough game that they have away, but
and that's not a road game. But let's be honest, that's not a true road game.
Well, it depends how good Miami is. It depends how good Miami is if Miami's 10-1 going into that game, then it becomes a true road game. But you get the point. But anyways, yeah, I still think there will 100% be a loss or two in here. Like, this is not a team that has, a high floor by any means, because like we said, like I think a loss to Pitt next week could very well happen if Louisville just really craps the bed. They don't have that type of floor, but this is a team. I agree with you. I think 10-2 seems like the most likely outcome. And if I'm to be honest, if they don't have that letdown game against Duke or Pitt, this team is going to be 10-0 going into that Miami game.
Oh my!
Oh
word.
man, this could get interesting, man. How many people saw this coming? I mean, we knew they had the easy schedule, but I don't think I don't think 10-0 was on. Yeah, me too. I didn't think 10-0 was legitimately on the table.
You understand, man, I forget how the playoff games shape up. I don't know if the Orange Bowl's hosting this year, but I mean, Louisville could find themselves in a situation. Oh yeah, I mean, they really could. Well, they're the second best team in the ACC because of how it's structured, and then they'll probably get slapped by Florida State, I would think. But still, you end up potentially, 10-2, 10-3. And then, yeah, you're playing a New Year's Six game in the first year of Jeff Brom era. And I don't think they had done that since, I don't even know if they did that with Lamar, to be honest. It might have been back when they had Teddy and they went and played in the Sugar Bowl against Florida. That might have been the last time Louisville was in such a high profile bowl game.
Yeah, exactly. And man, if you're Notre Dame, Good grief. You know what they have next week? They have
Yep, you
USC.
got the men of Troy. At least it's at home, but Ohio State proved. What's that matter?
They have USC, and then in a few weeks they also have they got to go at Clemson. Notre Dame is
Man.
just listen. People always like to have the narrative. Oh, Notre Dame, they don't play anybody. Man, that is not true at all. Notre Dame has had like probably if one of the most difficult schedules, if not the most difficult schedule so far. Like they're getting the ACC's best. The ACC threw all their best teams at them, and in addition, they got to play USC. Yeah, somebody just put Notre Dame's team in the ice bath right now. Like their whole team needs to fit in the giant ice bath because they're in the gauntlet right now. And yeah, well, kudos to Notre Dame, man. But yeah, that's tough, man. I think Notre Dame is still a very good 5-2 team. I think they are just victims of scheduling dynamics. I think we all agree on that. Well,
that's just tough. I mean, I really almost don't know what's worse though. Like, losing a last second to Ohio State or just losing by 2 touchdowns to Louisville. It's rhetorical. I still think Ohio State loss is worse, but
yeah,
that's just brutal.
Well, let's pivot into the Great Southeastern Conference because Alabama versus Texas A&M. Listen, we all picked A&M in this game.
Are we haters?
I think we are. I think we are haters. Listen, my takeaways from this game: Texas A&M was the better team in the first half. Alabama was the better team in the second half, and ultimately, turnovers, game management, those are all very important. Game management, especially Jimbo Fisher, not necessarily the best game management decisions, in my opinion. I mean, we'll just put it this way. I believe it was the first drive of the game. They went for it on 4th down and 1 in Alabama territory, like early in the first quarter. I'm like, all right, okay, I like that. But you don't go for it on 4th down and short late in the game with pretty much the game on the line. I don't get that. You settle for the field goal? Like, what are we doing here?
To cut it to 6?
Yes, they went to cut it to 6 instead of trying to go for the touchdown. Listen, listen, A&M, I'll say this. They played well. Alabama's defense really got home in the second half. I mean, they were really good in the second half. The Tide and Alabama did have penalties that definitely did extend A&M's 1 scoring drive, I believe, in the second half. So they got help. But outside of that, Alabama thoroughly dominated in the second half. The defense is legit. Their defense is number 1 in efficiency as of right now. Alabama's is through 6 games in the season. And listen, Jalen Milroe, he's not amazing, but he's solid. He's good.
He was in mid-row today. I mean, hey man, you can call me out. I was wrong. He balled this game, allegedly hurt too. 321 yards, 3 tutties, and the lone pick. And Jermaine Burton, who has not existed. He's like, to me, he's best known for like punching that one Tennessee student, I think, when they lost last year. But he almost gets 200 yards receiving on 9 catches for 2 touchdowns. So it's like he's finally playing how they envisioned when he left Georgia because it was just too crowded in that room. And you talk about getting home. I will say that A&M, man, they got home too. And that D-line is legit. Jarian Cooper himself had 3 sacks. Fidel Diggs had 2 sacks. I mean, it just sucks that your D-line did have such a great performance, but because you're second, I can't talk. LSU secondary is more crispy than, bagel bites after you leave them in for too long. But that secondary is just such a weakness of A&M right now, and it's wasting what could be a potentially magical season for them, given the state of the West. And this was a blown opportunity. I don't want to say they were reeling, but you had a quote unquote weak Alabama team coming in to College Station, and you only put up 20 points and you just can't execute to beat them. And they have beat such better Alabama teams. They beat Alabama the year they won the national championship with Johnny Football. And then I don't know, not in the COVID year. I'm pretty sure. Wait, I don't know if they beat him in the COVID year, but I'm getting off track. Point is, they beaten better Alabama teams. So this just it sucks. But that being said, I mean, if A&M takes care, they could still finish potentially with double digits win season wise. But it's just the inconsistency in Jimbo's conservatism that is the problem.
Yeah, I still think A&M they still do have a high ceiling to accomplish here. They have a high floor. And Max Johnson clearly isn't the problem. If anybody doubted whether the Connor Wegman injury was going to derail his team, it's not. Max Johnson was still solid today. I mean, he did play the number one defense in the country. Let's keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, if I told you this, if you're an Aggie fan, if I told you were going to hold Alabama to just 54 sack-adjusted rushing yards in this game, just 54. If you adjust for sacks, they held them to 23 rushing yards. If you said for the entire game, you hold Alabama, a team that prides itself on running the ball with a dual-threat quarterback that's not the greatest passer in the world, you hold them to 23 rushing yards. If you're an Aggie fan, you were like, oh boy, where's my SEC West Championship t-shirt? Well, the secondary, what are we doing here?
Hey,
I had to point that out because
preaching to the choir,
especially a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, and it just makes me think if teams can throw the ball on A&M but can't run the ball, okay, well, who does A&M still play that can throw the ball really well? Because if Jalen Milroe can drop 321 yards,
Jaden's going to throw for 600.
I think LSU is going to put up points unless they get something fixed. Oh, by the way, you know how A&M has next week? They got to go at Tennessee. Yeah. The Bryles that veer and shoot against that secondary, oh my goodness. Like if Joe Milton is on his game, they're going to drop 50 on A&M.
I'm seeing a correlation here.
Oh,
okay.
By the way, they play Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss in Oxford.
Oh, that's in Oxford. Oh my
gosh. See, I look at the schedule now and we kind of see who the problems are and what the weaknesses are. I'm looking at A&M and I'm like, y'all are playing like three teams that can drop some bombs.
Ooh, I'm liking that under. I am liking that under. 8-4.
I'm sorry, A&M.
If Miss State didn't have Calamity, that'd be another one where I'm like, oh, you are cooked in College Station because they don't. I'm not going to get into it. That's beating a horse. But yeah, they've still got. And then, oh my goodness, I mean, if Spencer Rattler goes, into superhero mode, that could be a headache too.
Yeah, I mean, A&M's defensive line is going to suffocate them. But the point is,
yeah, that's
you
true.
You still have three teams that can throw the ball. You have LSU, you have Ole Miss, and you have Tennessee, and all three of them at Ole Miss, at LSU, at Tennessee. Oh boy. Yeah, A&M, you are not out of the water just yet, but it is a tough schedule, granted. I mean, it's still a top 15 team for sure. That's got a very tough schedule and unfortunately plays teams that I think can take advantage of their weakness, but we'll see. We'll see what this coaching staff can do. We can see what DJ Durkin does to make adjustments rest of season, but enough about A&M. How about the victors, Alabama? If you're Alabama, all of a sudden, woo boy, the path to the SEC championship game is paved out nice for you, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me just talk about the elephant. LSU with that very unexpected Ole Miss loss. That game is going to carry so much weight, and I'm personally concerned about the Tigers dropping another SEC game that isn't Bama, just to say that's secondary. But real quick, Shub, I mean, Bama's next three games are at home. I mean, they're not back on the road until they take a trip to Kroger Field on November 11th. And yeah, Kentucky's better than at least I expected, but they're going to win. I mean, and then maybe Auburn at the end of the year is exciting, but they don't have a quarterback. I mean, I said it against Georgia. They don't have the horses. They had the horses to cover in that instance, but they don't have the horses to beat their rival. So they're sitting pretty. That Tennessee game, Shub, that was like a once in a million, make a deal with the magician type situation. Tennessee's not going to beat them. Arkansas, they're going to bang them up. I mean, even in a down year, credit to Nick Saban. He finds a way to get these guys prepared and bounce back. And they always have these September losses, Shub, and we always overreact. The dynasty's over. And then they go and win these games, and they're going to be right in the mix. And I don't want that to sound as a salty LSU fan. That's just me more so giving praise to Nick Saban, who is just one heck of a coach, because I definitely did not see this. I still saw a few more losses, and they have been able to right the ship.
And look how far they've came ever since that USF game. That was like the low point right there, that
Man,
USF game.
I forgot about that already.
Yeah, it's
USF team, like, blown out by UAB. Yeah.
But I'm with you, man. I think LSU at home, I think that's the key game. That's right there, the keys to the ignition to send them back to the SEC championship game. And yeah, I look at Alabama's schedule. They're 5-1 now. I see potentially only one loss. I don't think they will lose more than one game rest of season. They will either be 10-2 or 11-1 at the end of the year, which, was, I think, if you're Alabama, probably the better case scenario.
It was 10.5, and hey, we feast. They go 10-2. So
hey, Vegas is pretty accurate sometimes, and it seems like they were pretty accurate with Alabama. But I still think another loss is possible, especially if you were to have a Milroe injury, because we know quarterback depth is clearly not there. I mean, Alabama turns into, a nice looking Mississippi State when Milroe's out of there. So, but yeah, good for Alabama. I think they are controlling their own destiny. So let's stick in the SEC, because it is nice to parlay this segment into the other team that does still carry or control their own destiny, and that's LSU. Despite the early season loss to Ole Miss, despite the loss to Florida State, LSU still does control its own destiny for the SEC championship. I'll preface that for the SEC championship. LSU was in another shootout with Missouri. I know you watched this game, so what are your thoughts here?
My thoughts are, this is a very gutsy win. Como at 11 a.m. with a ranked Mizzou in probably one of the bigger games they've had in recent memory. That was a hostile environment, Shub. And with how that started, I was like, oh boy, we're doing this again. We're getting run off the field. Luther Burden's going to go for 250. Can't cover anybody. And shockingly, the defense actually forced some 3-and-outs. I texted my one buddy and said, oh my goodness, dude, it's a 3-and-out. Am I dreaming right now? They forced some 3-and-outs. Harold Perkins showed up, got an interception. Major Burns at the end, cooked the cover, but gets a game-sealing pick six. I was absolutely hyped. The defense was still mid, 100% mid. I mean, Brady Cook, incoming pun, yeah, he cooked. I mean, 411 for 2 tutties. But LSU did end his interception streak, so that was massive. And then I gotta stop burying the lead. Jaden Daniels, I mean, just a gutsy performance. This man gets bruised, taking a I don't want to call it a super late hit, but a late hit after scoring. And then not too long after breaks a huge run for a touchdown. He had 130. Sorry, that was Diggs. Daniels had 130 on the yard. Diggs with 134 on the ground, and 1 rushing touchdown. And Jaden threw for 250 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, I'm parroting the pundits, but Jaden would be a Heisman contender if he was on an undefeated or 1-loss LSU team. And then the receivers, Malik Neighbors, and I know you took him in the team draft, and that's always a great bet. 146 on 6 catches for a touchdown. Brian Thomas got in the end zone as well with 66 receiving yards. This was just a great response by LSU, because it really couldn't have been any worse than what happened against Ole Miss. So the fact that LSU was in a similar situation and was able to execute and beat a really decent Missouri team on the road is awesome. I'm still nervous. I'm pretty sure every single game except Georgia State is going to go like this the rest of the year. But shocking, the LSU fan on the pod thinks that this is a fantastic win for his LSU Tigers.
No, it is a fantastic win, and I'll speak as a neutral observer. This was a game that LSU easily could have lost. This was easily a letdown game. This was easily, we've already lost 2 games. Season's over. Yeah, we thought we could be national championship contenders, yada, yada. Let it down, quit alert. That didn't happen. They were able to win the game. I am pretty salty. In fact, am I going to give out a Zanny bar? Zan's not here, so I can give out Zanny bars on his behalf. No, maybe I shouldn't give out Zanny bars. Maybe it's more of it's a Shub grudge, if anything. Screw it. Put up the graphic. Put up the map graphic. We're going to Columbia, Missouri, because I have grudges. Listen, you don't go 1-9 on spreads if you don't get screwed over a handful of times. And this man right here, me, myself, went 1-9 on spreads last week, which is ridiculous. I think a monkey could have done better. And, just flipping a coin could have got me a better spread record. Brady Cook, you had the cover in the bag. Missouri played well enough to win this game, potentially. They were well enough to cover, for sure. They were good enough to cover, which is all that we all had that. We were all Missouri covering, and you throw a pick six in garbage time. Just brutal. And that's a grudge on all three of our – that's on all of our behalves because we all had Missouri spread.
I will say it was very consequential because, he was driving them down for a potential game-tying field goal. They had to go 96 yards, but – yeah, the fact that you found Major Birds who jumped the Luther Burden route, and then I wanted Major to go down because I really can't trust this defense, even with a 2-possession lead. And he scores. It's one of those where I'm ecstatic, and then after the fact, I'm like, oh, wait, there goes the cover.
Well,
and then I don't even think if Mevis had made the kick, it wouldn't have mattered at the end either. Because I think that had happened. They drove down, and then Mevis use all his mojo on that 60-plus yarder against K-State. And he made a long one in that game, but he did have a couple rough misses as well that contributed to the outcome. But also, shout out Luther Burden. It's exactly what I expected. Like, he didn't get in the end zone, but, 11 catches, 149 yards. So good. So good.
Oh, he's phenomenal. Listen, LSU had some tough fortune in that Ole Miss game. I look at the rest of their schedule. They still can win the SEC championship game because they have the one loss to Ole Miss, yeah. But if they run the table and they go in and somehow beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and I look at the rest of the schedule, you got Auburn at home, very winnable. Clearly LSU is the better team. I like them there. Army W. At Bama, you got Florida at home, which they've owned Florida in recent years. Georgia State, and then you have A&M at home. A&M, their biggest weakness is their secondary. That's a huge matchup advantage for LSU, obviously. So I look at the rest of the schedule, and I'm like, 10-2 is very much on the table. And if not 10-2, I still think 9-3 is what probably should happen if you're LSU.
Yeah, I think, Shub, as you well know, the problem is Brian Kelly completely overexceeded expectations in year one. Beating Alabama, winning the West. So 9-3 to some might, and if they fail to make it to Atlanta, it's going to look like a disappointment. But in reality, that is a fine year two, where again you have to patchwork your secondary and just the team in certain places with a bunch of transfers. Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal. You've missed on some transfers, more so on the defensive side. Omar Spates kind of hasn't been what we thought he was going to be. And you got Zy Alexander is at Southeastern and he's holding his own, but you have Denver Harris and Zy Alexander. And I don't know if you knew this, but Deuce Chestnut's not with the team right now. So for all I know, he might've got kicked off for whatever reason. So with all this going on, the fact that you could go 9-3 and maybe sneak into a New Year's Six game is still awesome for LSU.
Agreed. And I'm going to give a quick Shuby snack to Eli Drinkwitz only because he went for 2 early or in the game after that first touchdown, which is very smart. If you're the underdog in one of these shootout type of high score type of games, get ahead of the curve here and go for 2 early on. And that can cause some havoc with the scoreboard and game management, even though they lost. But anyways, and if you're Missouri, you're 5-1, you still have everything ahead of you. Yeah, they still got to play Georgia and some tougher teams, but Missouri's having a great season, and I would not hang their heads if I was them. But what do you want to go to next, man? I think the next game that I want to talk about is in the Pac-12. Let's go to the Pac-12 for a little bit, and let's also pick up the pace here because we've spent a lot of time on these 4 games. But Washington State, UCLA won by 8 points. Again, I was able to catch this one in the highlights. This was just kind of a weird game. It was a weird game. There was some weird stuff that happened early on. Washington State fumbled the ball. I feel like every other possession, they fumbled it away to UCLA. But then at the end of the half, UCLA had a chance to tack on to a 6-point lead and make it a 2-score game with 12 seconds in the half. And then they threw a pick 6 at their own 10-yard line. Washington State's 10-yard line, and Wazoo took it back for a 90-yard pick 6, which really swung the game. And So you have Wazoo with a 1-point lead at halftime, and then, UCLA just kind of found their groove in the second half, and the defense really shut down a Heisman contender in Cam Ward and what has been a really good offense for Wazoo.
There goes that.
I don't think it's totally in the tank just yet, but yeah, it was a huge hit for Cam Ward, and Cam Ward played what we'll call like it is. He didn't play a great game at all. He had 2 interceptions, and they were bad interceptions. He just didn't play well. He had a bad day, 19-39. UCLA really was able to do what they wanted to do defensively. And this is a game where if you're Wazoo, listen, if you want to be a great team, you want to be a Pac-12 contender, you got to win these games. It's plain and simple.
So the reason, Shub, that I said that Cam Ward was cooked for the Heisman is because how the award has been won and structured in recent years is you basically have to be flawless. No, gone are the days where you kind of get this mulligan game. If you have a bad game, for the most part, it knocks you out. And it just sucks because he was doing really well, but man, just 2 picks, just a bad day. I mean, it's not like Dante Moore was any more impressive. Granted, Dante's a freshman though, so he can get a little bit of a slack.
He had some good throws in this game. I think if you're UCLA, considering how bad he was in the Utah game, this was progression for Dante Moore. And that's big. He showed signs of fulfilling his potential. He's probably just going to have to take more time. He's not going to be a guy like Bryce Young that just lights it up as a true freshman. But yeah, I think that if you're UCLA, you got to be really happy with this win. And listen, I want to give a Zanny bar to myself, because we all picked Wazoo in this game. And I was the one person that was like, hey, wait a minute. Isn't this the game where the Pac-12 teams always cannibalize each other?
You did say that.
I was thinking in my head, I should probably pick UCLA right now. But I was like, nah, I'm going to stick with Wazoo, even though every bone in my body was saying, wait a second, I should probably pick UCLA, and I just didn't. So, yeah. It's just a tough week for me, man.
So I will say, Shu, I don't have authority to give these, but I guess like a pseudo Shuby snack could go to Carson Steele. You carry the ball 30 times. I don't know if there are NFL running backs on rosters who have even had 30 carries this season. 30 times for 140 yards. Even though you didn't get in the end zone, you still took the pressure off Dante Moore. So really cool to see that for Carson Steele. And then 2 other points I want to make real quick. Here's your padlocks. Wazoo was 2 of 13 with on third down. UCLA was 8 of 25 though. Wow. But you turn the ball over 4 times. There you go, right there.
Yeah. Wazoo was very reckless with the football. And shout out Carson Steele, man. Ball State transfer.
Baby.
Good for UCLA. Big win for them. I think classic Pac-12 cannibalization game, man. That's all it is. Classic Pac-12 cannibalization. Do you want to stick at the Pac-12? Because there was a 3 overtime thriller that we both got to watch the tail end of. And I feel like there's a grudge coming here. I sense a grudge on the horizon in the USC Arizona game.
So even though I picked USC and it was a straight up pick with how I do the picks, Mr. Jedediah Fish, what the heck are we doing? You go into overtime after a legitimate miracle. You get USC, who can't snap, for a 20-yard extra point attempt, a game-winning walk-off field goal. It goes high. The kicker does not know what to do. You block it. You go into overtime. Of course, USC scores because they have Caleb Williams. You score in one play. Dorian Singer, shout out, by the way. Man came ready to go. And you don't go for 2. Do you have money on the game? I mean, what would possess you to not go for 2, to end the game either way, and you give Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman champion, number 1 pick, a second chance? Shoot, make it make sense. It legitimately hurts my head. This might be the biggest grudge of the year, and it's not again, I didn't lose this pick on it. It's just sheer tomfoolery and stupidity.
Arizona was the better team. Arizona was the better team. I watched it. They were the better team. They moved the ball better, more effectively on a down-for-down basis. Arizona was better. Post-game win expectancy agrees. Arizona should have won this game 72% of the time. I mean, Heck, just look at the raw stats. Arizona, 506 total yards to just USC's 365. They had nearly 150
And
total yards advantage in this game. They were able to run the ball well. You had the quarterback play, which really on paper, as far as passing, Noah Fafita outdueled Caleb Williams. 303 yards, 5 touchdown passes. Caleb Williams was not particularly on his game in the passing. Rushing wise, completely different story. And listen, I watched it. Caleb Williams is just he's him. We all know that. And he put the team on his back. Like Caleb Williams really rescued USC from a loss here. I'll say that. USC didn't win this game. Yeah, USC didn't win this game because of Caleb Williams. USC didn't lose this game because of Caleb Williams. They escaped a loss because of him. You have any other quarterback in the country,
you lose regulation.
USC loses. Yep.
And what really aggravates me, and I know we don't do that much in our pods, so I'm not going to set this precedent. This should not be a top 10 team. That is nonsense. I know we value winning in this sport, but it's not like the NFL where everyone's professional. Like some of these guys are selling insurance when they're done with college football. And the fact that you played a team that we all took their under at 5, you took a team that's not going to make a bowl game, took you to triple overtime at home, by the way. No, you should at least be ranked 15. I think that's egregious, and I know what it is. It's lazy writers who didn't win the game, who didn't watch the game, and said, "Oh, that was close." Oh, but they won. And I'll tell you this: what is Oklahoma State? If Oklahoma State went overtime against Iowa State and barely won, you drop 8 spots. Please tell me if I'm wrong.
You're not wrong at all, and I completely agree with you. I mean, half the writers don't even watch the games. We all know this. But I'm going to take the Arizona angle here before we move on. So if I'm Arizona, yeah, this is heartbreaking, but Arizona, I feel like, has been the unluckiest team in college football so far this year in terms of record. Because Arizona, listen, the Pac-12 is getting a lot of hype this year. You have Colorado, who's like the hype, mid-level team. I think Arizona, after you go through, the top 6, the top 6 nice stallions you got there, Arizona's the next best team. Arizona is quietly a very solid team. You look at their 3 losses at Mississippi State in overtime, which they should have won. Post-game win expectancy suggests they should have won that game. They had a 1-score loss last week to Washington. They gave Washington a better fight than any other team so far this season. And then, of course, this game to USC, in which it went to 3 overtimes, and Arizona probably should have won too. Arizona is some better luck, a better swing of the pendulum in terms of luck away from being a 5-1 team, a ranked team that has knocked off a couple solid teams.
No, you're absolutely right, Shub. And I will say, even though I was just dunking on Jedediah Fish, they do play hard for him.
They do. And they got some dudes, man. I mean, I just say it right now. I think Noah Fafita might be better than Jaden DeLora. And that's treasonous talk on this podcast because we love Jaden DeLora.
Well,
we were delirious for DeLora last year, but I'm a fizzy for Fafita.
Now we got to get funked up on Fafita. No, I mean that's your guy. Like for real, I'd run with him and tell Jaden like, "Yo, this is real, but go get yourself a waiver, go get your Tez Walker and go explore somewhere else because we're done here." So,
how about fuzzy for Fafita? Where's that?
I like that. We're all fuzzy for Fafita.
That's right.
I think this game is just a bigger indictment on USC. Clearly the defense is not fixed. So I'm intrigued when USC has to play those consequential games down the stretch, how this will come to bite them, because you just can't be going on triple overtime against Arizona, man.
I mean, listen, I don't know though, because I think Arizona is a pretty solid team. I mean, again, they gave Washington a good fight. Like we didn't castrate Washington for going 1 score against them last week, but we're castrating USC here for going into triple overtime. I know USC clearly probably should have lost this game, but Arizona's got some dudes, man. Tatora McMillan and Jacob Cowing, like that's a 1 and 2 that could start at a lot of Power 5 programs and probably would be the top 2 receivers at a majority of Power 5 schools right now. And they got 2 of them.
I agree.
They got some dudes at receiver. Those are 2 NFL guys that Arizona has at receiver. They have a quarterback that might be better than their starter, which was crazy to say going into the beginning of the year. And I look at Arizona's schedule. They're the team you don't want to play right now. If you are the Pac-12, if you are a Pac-12 contender, you do not want to play Arizona. They go at Wazoo. They play Oregon State. They play UCLA. They still play Utah. They play a lot of the top dogs. That is not the team I want to play right now. It's not Colorado. If I'm looking at that mid-level team that I'm worried about losing to, it's not Colorado. It's Arizona.
Well, so let me address that, Shoop. So it's funny you mentioned Colorado. Not mentioning their game. I really could give a rip, that they survived against ASU. What I do want to mention is you talked about Colorado's getting everybody's fastball because of the hype and everything. Arizona's that 7-hole. He hits 210. But if you serve him one up, he could take you yard. And so you got people who are just coming right at Arizona because they don't see them as a home run threat. You're not careful. You hang one, and he just took you 390 feet.
Amen to that. Yeah, Arizona's the Adam Dunn of the Pac-12 this year.
Yes, I like that.
I like that. Yep. Well,
maybe 420. I'll give him some credit. We'll for 420, 430. A little power behind there.
It's a good distance right there.
Oh yeah.
So, what do we want to go to now? Because there's a lot of games. Listen, let's just go to this game. Can we do this now? Georgia Tech, Miami.
Yo.
Oh boy, Zan is not here, but boy, do we have some Zanny bars. In fact, I think I want to double this Zanny bar. I want to make this like a Zanny bar XL.
Ooh, okay.
I think we all know where I'm going with this. Mario Cristobal. You guys see the thumbnail of this video, by the way. If it kind of gave it away. If you did not watch this game or you don't know what happened, Miami had the opportunity to just ice this game simply. 36 seconds left in the game. They could have just simply taken a knee with the lead and won this game. But for some reason, Mario decided, I'm going to hand the ball off to pad stats, whatever the hell he was thinking to do. And they fumbled it. Goes to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech gets it with a few seconds left. And they completed the pseudo Hail Mary to score with 2 seconds left and won the game. Inexcusable.
Is that non-NCAA 14 thing right there? Like, does that not seem like something? You're just running out the clock because you don't care. You fumble, and then you're like, well, I don't care. And then the defense, you know how the AI works. The computer says, oh, no, we're scoring. Don't worry. And just dots you up, and you just lost. Like,
that is exactly what this was.
Like, that's road to glory. Like, when you can only control an offensive player, and so they still hike the ball with time on the clock and stuff. Like, literally, like Mario Cristobal handed it over to the road to glory coach, and they ran the ball, and you described it perfectly. I mean, yeah, I picked Miami, so I'm aggravated. It's not enough for a Gonzo grudge because it's intriguing almost. I mean, outside of like the only other comparable thing maybe I could think of in the NFL, Josh Allen, goal line, and like Minnesota scored to tie the game, and it was the craziest thing I've seen in a while at that level. This is just, what's funny? We don't do this a lot, but Chip Patterson on Cover 3, I'll give him a shout out, and I know he's not listening to us, but he talked about this. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Georgia Tech, who just lost to Bowling Green, goes and beats Miami? And I bet he probably said that on the pod. I haven't listened to them yet. So quick Cover 3 plug. But man, like, here Miami is. You beat Texas A&M. People are starting to take you a little serious, and then it's not even laying an egg. You just choked. I mean, Mario, like, I don't have words. What are you doing? Why are you running the ball? I mean, the only thing I could think of, but I'm not trying to cut the wound, but when Gundy did that nonsense against Central Michigan.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking of. He literally lost the game because of that. And the NCAA wouldn't overturn it, even though it was a misallocation of the rules.
Yes.
That's completely different. That was something that like the NCAA could have overturned. This was not. This was just straight up something that happened on the field. Stupidity, yeah. But I completely agree with you. And I don't know what else to say. Like, if you're a Miami fan, like, I guess this is what you signed up for with Mario Cristobal. Like, it really is. He's going to kill it on the recruiting trail. But when it comes to game management, he's just terrible. Like, it is what you signed up for. And unfortunately, Miami could have the number one roster talent in the country. They could have a team loaded with 5 stars, but that ceiling is capped because of Mario Cristobal game management. And it's just kind of what you sign up for when you hire Mario, I guess. But I don't get it. And the best part is this isn't the first time he's done this. He did this in 2018 at Oregon in a similar situation against Stanford. Very similar situation. And he lost that
Oh my
game
gosh.
because he didn't run the ball. Yeah. Or didn't
I
kneel it.
remember that. I will say, and I'll never blame a college kid, but I am curious. I kind of like Van Dyke. He should have just kind of been like, that's cute, coach. You can yell at me later. I'm needing this. I'm not handing this ball off. And that's not, he's taking orders. That's his job. Like, do what coach says. But part of me wonders if it's like, no, we don't need to do this. Like,
so
but I get it.
I get it too. So we'll end it on this one. Shout out to Georgia Tech. They're now 3-2.
Oh, yeah.
They're now 3-2.
Cooked, man.
Yeah, they're 3-2. They might have a shot at a bowl game, though. Georgia Tech has just played in some like crazy games. But like you said, wouldn't it be hilarious? Georgia Tech gets blown out by Bowling Green and then goes on the road and beats Miami the following week. That's just, I love this sport, man. You gotta love it.
Yeah. No.
Second, you want me to double this? Wouldn't it be hilarious right here?
Oh, absolutely, I would.
If you're a Texas A&M fan, if I told you at the beginning of the season, you are going to lose to Miami. However, Miami is then going to turn around and then lose to Haynes King, your former quarterback that just left. They beat Texas A&M, but then they lost to Haynes King in the same season within a handful of weeks. Oh boy, I love this sport, man. Oh,
holy
that's
narratives, man.
If you're an A&M fan, that is just, oh boy, I love this sport, man. I love this sport. All right, enough about Miami. The ACC is just wild this year. All of a sudden, we got a Louisville team that's a contender. Miami, you got to lick your wounds here and bounce back because your margin for error is just narrowed down a lot.
Oh yeah,
and
shout out.
ACC is getting a little wild here, but what do you want to move to next? UNC, yeah.
I mean, I was nervous taking that cover, and no, North Carolina, like, we got you. Drake May, you know, I was kind of being hard on him a couple weeks ago, and he probably has me just on loop in his locker, just being all rude to him and everything, because 442, 3 tutties. I mean, they got that thing rolling, and as someone who is still nervous with their defense and stuff, you know, I'm just hoping we can inch that over some way, somehow. But this was huge. I did not think they were going to just absolutely beat the doors off of Syracuse.
No, and Zane and I clearly didn't, because we took Syracuse to cover that game +9. So, yeah, we took big L's on that one. Listen, North Carolina, I know they beat the doors off of Syracuse here. I didn't get to watch this one. Of course, I think Drake May heard me say that Garrett Schrader's been the better quarterback this year statistically, because that clearly did not show in this game. Listen, UNC's defense has been better. They clearly held Syracuse to just 7 points here. I still am going to believe it to see it with UNC. Like, I'm looking at all the advanced stuff here, and I still am in believe it to see it mode, but they are 5-0. And yeah, I think I'm taking an L here on that under that I bet on their win total with personal money, because I was expecting a loss here for North Carolina at this point, and it just hasn't been there. And I guess we'll see when they play Miami. They got Miami at home this week. You got a big lull in the schedule, Virginia at Georgia Tech, Campbell, and then you got Duke at home. TBD on whether Riley Leonard's back by then, and then they go at Clemson at NC State. So it's going to get interesting for UNC. I took under 8.5, I believe, which I still think is on the table. I still think it is on the table, but likely not to happen. I think UNC is got a 9 to 10 win season in store here.
I mean, it's UNC. They could completely lose in November after Campbell. I mean, NC State, It doesn't matter who the quarterback is, what the situation is. They're going to give them a dogfight, and they beat them last year. And what's interesting is, wouldn't it be something if, like, they beat Clemson and had number 2 hypothetically walked up, then they choked the NC State and allowed either Duke or Clemson to hop them? That would just be an absolute kick in the gut.
Yeah, I mean, here, I'll take the positive spin from this, because if you're a UNC fan, you're probably saying this: hey, Drake May has looked like crap, the first few games, and we're still 5-0. We're still undefeated, and Drake May hasn't even played well. Now imagine if Drake May does start playing well. Then you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, this could be like an 11-1 team if UNC and Drake May really, really, kick it into gear, and Drake May is showing like a number 2 pick in the overall draft. Defense could be slowly getting better as the season goes on. They got Tez Walker too back.
That's huge. I'm so happy for that kid.
Yeah, exactly. So if anything, you're probably saying to yourself, stock up arrow on UNC. At least if you're a fan. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, and I'll be the hater. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but we shall see. If you beat Miami this week, you beat Miami coming off of that debacle that they just had, then I think you have my respects. I'll put it that way.
That's fair. I'm inclined to agree, and I think we'll be picking that game too, so we'll be able to put our actual metaphorical money where our mouth is. Speaking of, I guess, a team that we just forgot to mention when we were doing the West Coast sweep, I just wanted to shout out Oregon State. You beat a feisty Cal team by 12. You put up 52. That was a good for Oregon State to survive a kind of trappable situation there and keep on humming. So I just wanted to mention that real quick because we had forgotten about our good old Beavs.
Do you expect 92 points though in that game? Because I don't know if I expected that much lack of defense. No. I didn't watch it, but DJU had 5 touchdown passes, so he had a great game. But
I'm happy he's thriving. Cal's better than I thought.
They are, but if you're a Beavs fan, are you still concerned that you gave up 40 points to Cal?
Yes. Even though, they have changed their offensive identity. They have gotten better offensively. But yes, because you think about some teams you got coming down the pipe, and, if Cal can do that to you, what are some other upper tier teams going to do? Because Utah's not really the measuring stick for offensive potency by any means.
Well, but listen, I'm going to repaint this narrative here about Oregon State. So we keep saying the defense is legit. Well, we're looking at efficiency here through 6 games actually. Oregon State, their offensive efficiency rating is 17th in the country. Their defensive efficiency rating, 45th.
That's good. It's top 50.
That's good, but that's kind of
fantastic.
I think in our minds we're thinking that's flipped. I think in our minds we think this is a 45 offensive team and a 17 defense. No, that is not the case. This offense is more efficient than the defense. The defense is above average, but not quite as good as it was last year.
I think it helps that, teams like UC Davis, San Diego State, you kept in single digits. You kept Utah in single digits.
Yeah, but those are really bad offenses.
Yeah. So it's one of those where if you do a deeper dissection and really kind of looking at that schedule, and then you see that Wazoo game that happened, and now Cal, and I am curious, Oregon State's not going to get the kind of narrative and buzz that LSU gets because LSU, SEC, was a top 5 team, all that fun stuff. But it is an interesting situation of a very decent offense that could be potentially squandered if the defense doesn't bring its A game. And listen, that Washington, Oregon to close out November, you could be giving up 100 points easily if you're not careful, if you're screwing around. Even Arizona, on the road, if you're not careful, you could get dotted up all night. And Colorado too, for goodness sakes.
No, exactly. So let's move on here. I want to go to the SEC again because I have a Xanabar to give out, and I kind of have a grudge as well. I think we got Georgia, Kentucky, and
we
have a grudge to give out here because what did we say last week on our predictions video? We all took Kentucky plus the points, and we were like, Georgia, you've been screwing around. You're 0-5 against the spread. We're finally going to fade you because we've been picking you this whole time. You haven't been delivering for us. If this is the week that you finally decide to kick it into gear and blow out Kentucky, we are not going to be happy. And what did Georgia decide to do? They said, screw you guys. Screw the Saturday Scholars College Football Podcast. We're just going to do the opposite of whatever side of the spread you pick this week. And that's what they did. And they finally flipped the switch. And Carson Beck played phenomenal. I think enough said there. And then I have a Zanny Bar to give out. Again, Zanny Bar, Zan's not here, so I will give it out. Zanny Bar to Kentucky. You guys are killing me. As a Gator fan, why on God's green earth do you guys play the Florida Gators like it's your Super Bowl? You play us like you are a top 10 team that could be competing for an SEC championship, and then you go on the road the next week and just completely turn into the team we thought you were against Georgia. Like, give me a freaking break, man. Why do you always play us so hard and then you drop these stinkers?
Dude, like, you stole my
you can't out Georgia. You cannot out Georgia.
I was going to go X-File theme music here because I was going to say, did they just sell on this Georgia game, put it all in for the UF game? And I think we had the data to prove it. Guess, you may have saw the stat, but if you didn't, can you guess how many rushing yards Ray Davis had?
59.
Yep. So yeah, I mean,
like, I already knew that. I already knew that. I figured you knew
already. Yeah. But and granted, running against UF's D line is a lot different than running against Georgia's D line. But like this isn't a novel thought of mine, but I guess the prevalent kind of thought from pundits is Kentucky put their cards on the table in that UF game. They showed what they had with those running attacks, those designed schemes, and Georgia was ready for it. And Devin Leary is mid. I mean, we're just not wrong. Devin Leary is mid. This offensive line is a more weaker unit for this team. And I really cannot believe Georgia decided to care. I don't know what it was. I don't know if they made up an article that said Devin Leary talk smack. Oh yeah, they ain't nothing like with AI generation. But clearly Georgia found a way to motivate themselves to 51 points. And I'm truly shocked it was a blowout. I shouldn't be because this is the two-time defending champ, but I am. I'm shocked that they won by 38 points.
Next time that we pick Georgia, we're going to lay the points because we know by default, it doesn't matter who they're playing. They're going to be favored because they're going to be favored against anybody on the schedule. So whenever we do pick them next, we are going to lay the points and they're going to play like crap. Or we're going to take their opponent plus the points and then Georgia is going to turn into Georgia. That's just the way it works this year, man. Georgia's toying with us.
So let me actually shoot. This is perfect. Let's go to a team. I'm proud of them. I can't give them any award, but let's go to the number 2 team who also scored 50 plus points. Michigan. Yes, finally, you looked like a top 2 team here. You dispatched a Minnesota team that is mediocre and look good doing it. So I'm happy that Michigan finally. I don't know if they saw Georgia and said, hold my beverage. We got this, but they dominated and, good for Michigan. Now I can give that a little more credence. You crushed a Big Ten opponent thoroughly.
Yeah. And all the advanced numbers are backing up Michigan's success here. Like the power rankings and all the efficiency metrics suggest Michigan is a top 2 to top 3 team. And I know they've played bad competition. And they will play bad competition up until November. But, I mean, what more can you ask for? Even if you're a Michigan hater and you're doubting Michigan and you're saying, oh, well, we won't know until they play. Well, the best they can do, the most you can ask out of them is to completely just dominate the bad teams that they are playing. And that's what they have been doing. So, yeah, I'll give them credit for that. So, we're running late on time here, so let's just go through the rest of the conferences.
Rapid fire,
quick fire, rapid fire rundowns, conference by conference. Since we're in the Big Ten right now, let's stay in here. Ohio State. Oh my gosh, I have a Zanny Bar.
Give me that
I have
cover.
a Zanny Bar to give to the Maryland Terrapins. How do you not cover this game? How do you not cover? This is a Shub grudge, if anything. Screw it. Put on the graphic. Shub grudge. I went 1-9 on spreads, so I should get honorary grudges this week because I went 1-9 on spreads.
Absolutely.
College Park, Maryland. That's where this is going. How do you not cover this game? How do you not cover? Like, explain to me how 17. Maryland is not covered. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
17 in the fourth.
And a pick 6.
For 320 on you. Yeah.
This was tied at halftime. Oh, just... It was a 3-point game going into the fourth quarter. All right, I'm done.
Scoreboard watching, and I'm like, this is cooked. And then I saw the final score, and I'm like, I'm literally talking to my girlfriend's dad. I'm like, well, how about that? Ohio State covered.
It's this sport drives me nuts, man. These spreads, picking these spreads every week is gonna drive me
Oh
nuts.
yeah. Oh,
But
what's
shout out to you
Iowa?
though. You called Talia Tagovailoa throwing an
Oh,
interception that to give Ohio State the spread, and that's
it,
exactly what happened. So shout out to you, my friends.
sometimes you hit on some. How about Iowa still winning without like a quarterback? I mean, same old with them. There's nothing new to say there. I mean,
Hudson Card 2 picks. I mean, what's new? Same old. Deacon Hill
shocker.
six of 21 and still wins the game. The QBR. It wasn't 20, it was 2. A QBR of 2.
Well, between that and Army's receivers having more catches than their scholarship receivers, I mean, Iowa just continues to just amaze.
Yeah, Iowa did not have a single receiver get a catch in this game. Just want to let the viewers know that they did not have a single receiver get it.
I'm transferring. Like if I'm trying to do something legitimate with this game, I am leaving.
Your position label might not as well be receiver. Like you shouldn't be classified as receiver. You should be classified as an outside blocker. That's. I mean, what else do you call it? If you're not even catching passes, you're just blocking the whole time. You're just a glorified offensive lineman on the outside. I mean, legitimately.
Nope. You are right.
If you are a receiver, why on God's green earth are you going to Iowa? Listen, I know he's hurt now for the rest of the season, but like Cade McNamara, what the hell were you doing transferring to Iowa? Like, make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Yeah, at least you could have like won an Natty or been in the playoff of Michigan. Or you could have went anywhere else.
Or go to somewhere that has a competent offensive scheme, for God's sake. All right. But hey, you know what? Despite all this trash talk, Iowa's 5-1, and they're playing a de facto Big Ten West Championship game next week against Wisconsin. So somehow Iowa is still winning these games.
And shout out Wisco, you beat a salty Rutgers team at home. I thought that game would be somewhat competitive, but Wisco, that's a good win. That's actually a good win to beat Rutgers, I think.
The F around find out meter was really strong in this Northwestern Howard game. Northwestern only beat.
Thank you, Howard Bison, for the cover.
The Howard Bison almost won, but it was a 3-point loss, unfortunately, for them. And then lastly, we're going to end on a sour note here. This was the Friday night game.
Oh, I forgot.
My Illinois Fighting Illini are, it's been rough this year, man. 20-7 loss to Nebraska. Oh, man. Illinois is now 2-4. They're now 0-3 in conference play. And listen, Nebraska has not looked good this year. And they went into Memorial Stadium in Champaign and beat Illinois by 2 scores. It's tough.
I hate to say this, Shub. I think that under is looking really, really prime right now.
Oh, that's been prime for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, man. They just Luke Altmaier ain't it. And we kind of been saying that since preseason.
So let's go into the Big 12, because I think there's a lot of Big 12 rundown here. Friday night game, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, go Pokes, with a huge upset over Kansas State, 29-21. Was able to watch a good amount of this game. Oklahoma State, they caught a lot of breaks. They had big turnovers. Will Howard, I think, kind of really lost Kansas State this game, if you're going to ask me. Will Howard threw 2 just inexplicable interceptions. Going back and watching the highlights, I don't even know what the hell he was doing there. Both of those interceptions, they were both to Cameron Epps, a freshman corner for the Cowboys. But yeah, I think Kansas State really shot themselves in the foot here. Will Howard's just not living up to his ceiling that he set for himself last year so far. I'll put it that way, especially with those 2 interceptions. It was rough. And Kansas State had key drops in critical moments of the game. I mean, this was all in the cards for Kansas State to have a down game and lose. And if Oklahoma State did play up, Ollie Gordon had a great day. And yeah, I think if you're an Oklahoma State fan, this was a very pleasantly surprising win, a very big, pleasantly surprising win. And that's on the heels of that 48-0 massacre that they took last year. Remember that one? In Manhattan, the Manhattan Massacre.
Oh my gosh.
So avenging that loss for Oklahoma State feels really good. And then if you're Kansas State, I think I've got to call it like it is. This so far, you have 2 losses, one to a bad Oklahoma State team. This has been a disappointing year so far for Kansas State, and they don't look like a Big 12 championship contender to me, especially with the 2 teams in Red River.
And
they're not there.
Well, let's talk about the team they beat for the Big 12 championship. Oh my goodness, TCU. This is a gnarly hangover, and I don't think Pedialyte or Liquid IV or anything is going to help with this one. I do not understand how you go and just get dominated by Iowa State. I mean, shout out to Rocco Becht. I mean, but TCU, goodness. I mean, and we know they were kind of a lucky-ish team last year, but Iowa State, we universally pegged this team to make a bowl game. So
this
I'm
was
just
still
shocked.
supposed to
I
be a
don't even
good
really have any
TCU
more.
team. Yeah, I agree. It is shocking.
Yes.
This was supposed to be a good
And
TCU team.
And Chandler Morris got hurt, I'm pretty sure, too. So that doesn't help either.
Yeah, that's not going to help at all. But still, though, I mean, if you're TCU, they did lose some guys. Yeah, I mean,
that shouldn't matter with Iowa State.
Even before Chandler Morris was taken out of the game, he was not playing well at all. He had 2 interceptions. I mean, this was probably still an L for TCU, but of course, didn't get to watch it. But
shout out Texas Tech. They've made me mad all year, but hey, you beat the snot out of Baylor, and so now Dave Aranda, the seat got hot again. It's like, okay, you had that lucky UCF nonsense that was going on, and then you get smoked at home, by the way. Yep. Smoked at home by Tech with not Shuck the quarterback. You know what I'm talking about.
Baron Morton.
With their backup, though. Yes.
Baron Morton.
With Morton. Shapen did okay, though. 324 and a touchdown, so good for him.
Yeah.
Anything else in the Big 12?
Shapen really isn't the problem for Baylor. It's that defense.
No.
But
yeah, I mean, fine. We can't. It's just.
We can't just gloss over the beatdown that UCF took in Lawrence.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
I mean, listen,
I didn't think it'd be.
We didn't think it'd be this bad. We were all over Kansas, but we didn't think it'd be this bad.
I mean, what have we said? What do we say in win total, Shub? We liked Kansas because of the quarterback depth, and Jason Bean wasn't. Actually, I mean, they didn't really
I think I could have played quarterback in this game because I can hand the ball off and let my running backs rush for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns collectively on the ground. That's what Kansas did.
That's kudos. So that's being a team player and a good game manager, and that's just Weeple just with a great game plan.
400 rushing yards. 400 rushing yards. Like. UCF's defense was melted butter and then some in this game. Goodness gracious. UCF needs to go home in this bye week and throw that butter in the freezer because that thing is just dripping off the countertops right now. And they need this bye week really badly. UCF does. Plumlee also
they gotta get healthy.
Plumlee needs to get healthy. Yeah, UCF is reeling right now. Yeah, they are eating their humble pie. Yep. And good for Kansas. Good bounce back win for the Jayhawks. They could potentially be the 3rd best team in the Big 12. If I had to call it right now, I mean, based on what I've seen from Kansas State, I'm thinking like Kansas has a right to say they might be the 3rd best team in the Big 12.
You gotta love how inconsistent this conference is, and that's a compliment. I mean,
well, when nobody recruits, high 4-star players, and it's just even across the board as talent wise, you're gonna have chaos like this, and that's already showing itself. So let's go into the ACC. Let's finish off this conference. We already talked a lot about these games. FSU sort of was, lolling around against Virginia Tech early on in this game, but they did pull away. FSU did a good job on the ground. Trey Benson, 200 yards and 2 tutties. Johnny Wilson also had 2 tutties. Johnny Wilson, they're clamoring for some just consistency from him. So
that's good for Wilson getting 2 catches because he can be stone hands at times, and that's not me being salty. That's just an observation. I almost took Trey Benson in our team draft, and I shied away. So I really kicked myself over that one. But no, you took care of business and you beat an inferior team by 3 touchdowns. So, I mean,
who would have thought that NC State with their defense this year and the way that their offense has been, who would have thought they'd be in a shootout with Marshall? 48-41.
They barely got the cover. Like it's not enough for a grudge, but it's just one of those half point. But yeah, I really thought Marshall could straight up win this game. But man, Concepcion, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. I remember the preseason hype about him actually in one of the pods I was listening to. Yeah, Kevin Concepcion. He had a fantastic game, and clearly that quarterback switch ignited some kind of spark. So I'm intrigued to monitor the Wolfpack moving forward.
I'm going to say right now, MJ Morris is better than Brendan Armstrong. I think NC State
Yeah,
fans know that. I think the coaching staff knows that. I think everybody can see that. MJ Morris is the
my
future
take,
for the Wolfpack.
my Armstrong and I reunion. Yeah, I missed on that. Like I said, sometimes it's not good to get back with your ex, and here is yet another example in the long line of why you maybe shouldn't take that practice. It's fun for a little bit, like if you consider beating UVA with a walk-off field goal, fun. But long term, you need someone steady like Morris. So
Yeah, Morris is the guy there. How about Clemson? 17-12 against Wake Forest. And, this was a classic just letdown game for Clemson. You're at home against Wake. I mean, Wake hasn't been particularly that good this year. They've had a big drop off from last year. I didn't get to watch it, but this just seemed probably like a snooze fest, 17-12.
does Wake win if Hartman's still there? Probably.
Oh, well, yeah, but then I don't think Clemson probably takes Wake a lot more seriously than I imagine they did in this game.
I would think. Hey, for what it's worth, your boy Mitch Griffiths, he was a better passer than Cade Klubnik. 137 passing yards to 131.
There you go, baby. Mitch Griffiths is better than Cade Klubnik. You heard it here. JK, for those of you who take things seriously. How about Virginia? You know what? Shout out to Virginia because we highly, highly doubted their ability to cover against the William and Mary tribe. But somehow, some way, Tony Elliott's team found a way to cover against the William and Mary tribe. 27-13.
Dude, Tony Muskett, heck of a day. 2 tutties, 230. That's hard to do against FCS competition. It really is. And
William and Mary had a lead.
Getting the first win of the year.
William and Mary had a lead.
I would have stormed the field. I would have stormed the field. I mean, this is just huge. You broke an 8-game winning streak,
Or losing streak, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My apologies. I'm just that hyped for Virginia. They might as well have been winning. So no, obviously I'm being very sarcastic. It is good to cover, but the fact that I'm even feigning excitement about barely beating William and Mary when this program was in an Orange Bowl 4 years ago, like I say every time we talk about this team, clean the cupboard, start over, hard reset, and all that, because I just don't see it getting any better in the long run for the Cavs.
No. Well, we've already talked about all the Pac-12 games, but we briefly mentioned Colorado had a walk-off field goal against Arizona State. I'm going to say Arizona State's been a little unfortunate this year because they have played teams well so far ever since that massacre they took against Fresno. They took USC down to the wire. They took Colorado down to the wire. Arizona State, give them credit. They have punched above their weight class with Kenny Dillingham overcoming a lot of injuries. And then if you're Colorado, listen, I got to give a Zanny bar. I'm giving out. I'm clearly salty this week. I'm like a grumpy old man yelling
salty
at his
flavor to the Zanny bar.
I'm yelling at.
Edition.
Very salty Zanny bar, and I'm like that old man that's yelling at clouds. Yelling at clouds, yelling at kids to get off my lawn this week because of my picks. But I'm gonna give a Zanny bar to Shedeur Sanders for what the hell are you doing, dude? After the game, you're flexing on the ASU student section, and then you're flexing your watch. Like, bro, you beat Arizona State. They're a 1-5 team. Like, get a grip, man. Listen, I know Colorado's all about the flash and doing all that crap. Dude, get a grip. Get a grip.
Oh, I'm so happy I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I don't care. I don't care like what people think. Like, that's just stupid. Like, give me a break, man. Beat an actual respectable team that actually might like be bowl eligible by the end of the year if you're going to do that. Anyways, SEC games. Florida took care of business against Vanderbilt 38-14.
Good, some sense of normalcy again.
Yeah, very inconsistent for the Gators. They were in the swamp. That's why they played well, but we'll see how they do on the road because they do not do well on the road under Napier. Ole Miss, one possession game against Arkansas at home, 27-20.
That's a good one. Coming off that LSU win, that had let down. I picked Arkansas low key out of spite, not gonna lie. But that's a good win for Wayne and company.
Arkansas quietly is 0-3 in SEC play. They're 2-4 on the year.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Yeah, that over's cooked. I mean, unless something miraculous. Actually, yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think they'd have to win out for anything to happen. So, good win for the Rebs, though.
And then, is it even worth mentioning Mississippi State in our breath? They were messing around with Western Michigan, an 0-4 MAC team. I mean,
Shout out,
0-4 in MAC play team.
shout out Broncos for getting me that cover.
And you are a sicko for picking the Western Michigan on the spread in this
Hey,
game. I
hey,
love it though.
you know how I roll, man. If the level of competition's different, we do it with the spread. And dude, those MAC teams, it may just mean more, but it doesn't mean more when you play the MAC. You don't care. I mean, it's just hard to care. And it's just, yeah, dude, we've been being a dead horse on Miss State. We know where everything's going out there, and yeah, at least you won though.
So some G5 action before we wrap it up here. Skimming through the American,
yes,
nothing really notable, honestly, in the American. Shout out Navy for getting me a win.
that's a good
a
one.
close win against North Texas. I need that win total over. UAB was in a shootout with USF, so good win for them. Jacob Zeno had 4 touchdown passes. Very quietly, Rice dropped the ball to a 1-5 UConn team, or they were an 0-5 team.
That was their first win. Yeah,
that was UConn's first win. Yeah, Rice has been all over the place. Yeah, you go and beat Houston, and then you lose to 0-5 UConn. That's all over the place.
Oh.
How about CUSA, man? CUSA chaos. Listen, now that the ACC has gotten rid of divisions, we don't have coastal chaos. But now, my friend, the future of college football is CUSA chaos, baby. There was some, listen, Wednesday and Thursday nights, these are some crazy games. New Mexico State quietly back to 3-3. I still have belief that New Mexico State is a conference contender, believe it or not. I still do hold out hope New Mexico State's a conference contender in CUSA. Liberty squeaking out against Sam Houston. Liberty is 5-0. They're undefeated.
Yeah.
And then Western Kentucky was in a dogfight with Louisiana Tech. This was a game against 2 teams that are definitely conference contenders. Western Kentucky squeaked that one out. But, Louisiana Tech, 1 loss. They still have a shot at the CUSA championship, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Bold prediction, but I still think it's a tough road in general.
Yeah. So going down the road here, the MAC conference, the MAC very quietly, Toledo 5-1, though they were messing around with UMass. How about Ohio? They are blowing teams out, man. Listen, that Ohio pick in the team draft is looking very good for Zan because since they've gotten Rourke back, they're 5-1. They are rolling. They're killing the competition in the MAC, and I think they legitimately have an 11-1 finish on the table.
They would be ranked if it weren't for that nonsense in week 0, man.
It's killing me, man. If they didn't lose Rourke in that San Diego State game, they win that game, and Ohio is 6-0. Like they're up there, man. They're like what, top 70 in the power ratings, which for a MAC team, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, especially given the state. Like there's really bad teams in the conference, but then you've got, much better caliber of upper teams than you usually have. Because I mean, even outside of Ohio and Toledo, Miami, the real Miami of Ohio, has been decent this year. And, I've always liked Eastern Michigan as a sleeper. They're 1-1 in conference play, but they're one of the more better and Eastern Michigan, MAC teams. I'm not going to get too into the weeds. Point is, the MAC's better than we give it credit for.
Absolutely. And they got Miami, Ohio, who's the next best team, I'd say, in their division. They got them at home later on in October. And they don't play Toledo. So they kind of avoid the better teams. So I think 11-1 is totally possible for Ohio, but we'll leave it at that. How about the Mountain West? Okay, we got to give a little bit of credit to this game. Shout out to the Wyoming Cowboys. We picked this game. We all picked Fresno. You guys had Wyoming covering. Well, screw that. They didn't just cover. They said, let's go money line here. Let's win the game outright in Laramie. Man, I am eating crow here. I picked Fresno State there. I liked Fresno State in this matchup, but Wyoming is very quietly like a solid team. I mean, they beat Texas Tech. Let's keep in mind here, they beat Texas Tech to open the year, so they have a Power 5 win on their resume. They gave Texas all they can handle. Let's not forget, Texas really was struggling against them for 3 quarters.
Got that cover.
And then they snapped Fresno State's winning streak. They had one of the longest winning streaks in FBS. Fresno State did going into this game. Snapped Wyoming 5-1. They are 2-0 in Mountain West Conference play. They have a head-to-head win over Fresno. All of a sudden, the Wyoming Cowboys are looking like conference championship favorites? Question mark?
Maybe. I mean, beating Fresno is a big obstacle to overcome. You got Air Force coming up next. That's a big measuring stick there because Air Force has just been zooming past guys. That's my attempt at an Air Force pun, but they've just been dominating teams. If you come in and you do this to Air Force, then I think we can start really cooking up this conference championship talk. We can start it for sure, but I think it's legitimate if you can knock off the Falcons.
Well, guess what? We're going to find out because they play each other next week, and we're picking that game. Stay tuned for the second edition of the podcast predictions. We're picking Air Force Wyoming. Yeah, I left a question mark. I left a question mark on the end of that previous question there because I still do think it's Air Force 1, Boise State 2, Fresno State 3, Wyoming 4. Because, I think the Laramie factor definitely gives the Cowboys the edge, but
yes. And shout out Boise State coming back to win for San Jose State. I mean, I thought they were dead in the water, and they did what good teams do, and they stormed back, won the game by 8.
The Mountain West I think the Mountain West is the best G5 conference this year, easily, right? They have 3 teams that are power rated inside the top 70. I mean, Boise State and Fresno are right up there with like some of your middle lower power 5 teams.
And the problem is, I mean, they're playing really good teams, to kick open their year. I mean, Boise State's playing Washington, Fresno State. I don't remember if they played UCLA this year, but they always play a quality Pac-12 team. Wyoming played Texas. So, they do challenge themselves when they're playing Power 5 opponents.
I shouted out Zan's Ohio pick in the team draft. You realize he also picked Air Force, which is quietly looking like a really good pick. Air Force has played a very bad schedule. They played one of the worst schedules in FBS thus far, but they have been dominating teams. Air Force has been the Michigan of the G5. Like a team that we all think is really good. They could be the best G5 team overall, but they haven't played anybody yet. That's the dilemma with Air Force. But yeah, they're looking good. So finally, let's wrap it up with the Fun Belts. The Sun Belt is actually like really fun to follow this year. And yeah, there were some blowouts last week. Troy just annihilated Arkansas State.
Yep.
Troy finally looks like they're getting it together. And yeah, by the way, Zan also has Troy in the team draft. Like, listen, Zan very quietly is cleaning up in G5. I'm just gonna say it right now. Like he had a phenomenal G5 draft, low key, the way that's shaping out. But South Alabama, which you have, they finally righted the ship and blew out Monroe 55-7.
Needed that, man.
Yeah, you did. You definitely needed that. But yes, I mean, South Al is still, listen, I don't think we were wrong. That's still a good team. They had a rough patch there in sort of after that Oklahoma State game. I still think South Al can win the league. They're just going to have to play from, metaphorically behind the chains. So is there any other games that we want to touch up on? I think we have once again covered the board here very thoroughly.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much hit everything that we wanted to talk about. So I'm good unless you got any last second thoughts, Shub.
No, just if you're listening or watching, if you made it this far, once again, we thank you. Appreciate you listening through. Hopefully we've provided some good insight. And leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening, go ahead on YouTube, click on the video, and leave us a comment. If you're one of those people that likes us talking about the G5 towards the end of the pod, let us know, man. We like to give the G5 some love. If you're a fan of one of those teams by chance or just like following the G5, let us know. Or, of course, if you're a fan of all the other teams, and leave us your comments. Let us know what you have to say. Is there anything we missed? Is there anything you agree with us on? Let us know. We love to hear in the comments. We love interacting. But it's time to wrap this up, man. This is probably, I'm going to guess, an hour 30, hour 35, somewhere in that range. Maybe an hour 40. Yeah. Sure. That's all right, though.
I got a super late entry. Shout out ULL, Louisiana Lafayette, beating Texas State. I really thought Texas State would win that one handily. They won 34-30. So I just wanted to sneak one more in there.
Good win for the Raging Cajuns.
Yes.
All right, man. We are Xanless today, but this is the Saturday Scholars for Gonzo and Shub. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Signing out. See y'all later and enjoy your college football Saturday.